His name was Ed Hamburger, and by the mid-1990s, he'd already spent almost 2 decades doing something Detroit's own executives had officially given up on. Pontiac wasn't building real muscle cars anymore. The oil crisis had gutted the segment in the 70s. The 80s buried what was left under emissions regulations and anemic 4-cylinder engines. By the time the 90s rolled around, Pontiac performance mostly meant styling, plastic body cladding, and a screaming chicken decal on a car that couldn't back up the attitude. Hamburger's company, a small aftermarket outfit called SLP Engineering, thought that was unacceptable. And in 1997, they did something that still sounds almost impossible. They got their hands on 150 hand-built Corvette racing engines that GM's own factory wasn't using, and quietly built 29 Pontiac Firebirds around them. Sold through actual Pontiac dealerships, with a genuine 6-speed manual, faster to 60 than Ford's flagship performance Mustang that same year. 29 cars, that's it. This is the story of the rarest Firebird Pontiac ever put its name on, and the one man who refused to let the muscle car idea actually die. But to understand how Hamburger pulled this off, you need to understand exactly how far Detroit had fallen from the muscle car glory days by the time he started fighting to bring it back. The decade that almost killed the Firebird for good. The Firebird was born in 1967 into a world absolutely stacked with legends. Pontiac's answer to the Mustang, sharing bones with the Camaro, but carrying its own carefree attitude. But it wasn't the 60s that actually defined the Firebird's cultural legacy. It was the decade after, the one most people remember as the hangover from the muscle car party. The late 70s, Firebird Trans Am, gold and black, screaming chicken sprawled across the hood, became a genuine disco-era icon. The car that felt like John Travolta strutting into a nightclub. But after that peak, things fell apart fast. Emissions regulations gutted horsepower across the entire industry. The early 80s Firebird sometimes shipped with engines that could barely be called performance-oriented at all. Pontiac spent most of that decade trading on nostalgia for a reputation it could no longer back up mechanically. The 4th-generation Firebird arrived in 1993 with a more rounded, modern shape, and Chevrolet handed it the Corvette's LT4 V8, a genuine step in the right direction. But even with that improvement, Pontiac's official factory lineup still wasn't fully committing to the kind of raw performance identity the nameplate had built its reputation on decades earlier. Ed Hamburger and SLP Engineering had already been working the margins of exactly this problem since the late 1980s, quietly proving there was still a market for genuine performance Pontiacs, one small conversion run at a time. And by 1997, Hamburger's company was about to pull off the single boldest move of its entire history, one that required getting their hands on an engine that officially wasn't supposed to be available to anyone outside a handful of anniversary Corvettes. The engine that wasn't supposed to leave the Corvette program. SLP had been quietly building Firehawk conversions on top of Firebird formulas since the late 80s. Lightweight composite hoods with functional ram air scoops, Corvette-sourced cold air induction that added a genuine 25 horsepower. Later, a Bilstein Sport suspension package and a Torsen limited slip differential. These weren't massive sellers. Pontiac reportedly never shipped more than around 100 Firehawks in any given year through most of that run. But for 1997, Hamburger's team found something genuinely special. The LT4 V8, the exact engine that powered the special edition Corvette Grand Sport. This wasn't a detuned, softened engine borrowed loosely from Corvette lineage. This was the real thing. Reworked ports, increased flow rate fuel injectors, a high-lift camshaft, larger valves, and higher compression pistons. The result? 330 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. fast revving in a way regular production V8s of the era simply weren't built to match. According to Motor Trend's own reporting, SLP managed to get hold of the last 150 blueprinted LT4 units left in GM's supply chain. Engines originally built for the limited Corvette Grand Sport program and the 30th anniversary Camaro. SLP put about 100 of them into those anniversary Camaros. The rest, a genuinely small remainder, went into Firebirds. And here's the detail that really matters. Every single LT4 Firehawk built that year received the 6-speed manual transmission. Every one. Not most. Not the majority. All of them. That's a notable detail because SLP wasn't exclusively a manual-only company. They'd built plenty of automatics over the years. But for the 1997 LT4 cars, every single unit shipped with a stick shift. And that tells you something about exactly who SLP believed was buying these cars, and what kind of driving experience they were building toward. And when the final production number came in, it turned out to be even smaller than anyone expected. Small enough that this car quietly became the rarest Firebird, Pontiac's own dealer network ever officially sold. 29 cars, and the number that makes it official. When the dust settled, just 29 Firehawks were built for 1997 with the LT4 engine. Officially designated the alteration package on the build sheet, a bureaucratic name for what was genuinely one of the most extreme performance conversions. Pontiac's dealer network had access to that entire decade. These cars also received grippier, low-profile tires and a further tweaked suspension setup beyond even the standard Firehawk package. The following year, 1998, there were no LT4 Firehawks at all. When the Firehawk name returned in 1999, it carried the newer LS1 engine instead, meaning the window for this specific combination lasted exactly one single model year. Motor Trend actually tested one of these cars when it launched, and the numbers held up against serious contemporary competition. 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, quarter mile in 13.4. For direct comparison, Ford's own flagship performance Mustang of that era, the SVT Cobra, made 320 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque, and needed 5.5 seconds to reach 60. The LT4 Firehawk, built by a small aftermarket shop using leftover Corvette racing engines sold through a struggling Pontiac dealer network, was genuinely quicker than Ford's dedicated in-house performance flagship. If stories like this, the ones about a small team refusing to let an entire performance tradition simply die quietly, are exactly why you keep coming back to this channel, now's a great time to hit subscribe, because there's actually a rival to this car's rarity claim that deserves its own mention before we go any further. SLP built just 25 Firebird Firehawks total back in 1992, technically making that earlier run even smaller in raw numbers. But those 1992 cars used the L98, a comparatively ordinary engine already common across the third-generation Firebird lineup. The LT4 never appeared in any Firebird outside this single, extraordinary 1997 batch, which is exactly why serious collectors consider the LT4 Firehawk the rarer and more significant of the two. But the story of SLP's rarest builds doesn't stop there. There's a second chapter to this same obsession, arriving years later, that most casual Firebird fans have genuinely never heard of. The anniversary car that carried the same spirit forward. SLP wasn't a massive automaker, and that scale limitation meant almost everything the company built carried genuine scarcity built into it from the start. Some years, total Firehawk production landed in just the low hundreds, and within those already small numbers, certain special editions ended up rarer still. For the 2001 model year, SLP released a 10th anniversary edition Firehawk to mark the milestone. This one didn't carry the exotic LT4. Under the hood sat the more common LS1, an excellent engine in its own right, but not the same kind of forbidden fruit story as the 97 cars. What made the 10th anniversary edition genuinely special was its distinctive black and gold theme, a deliberate visual callback to the disco-era Trans Ams that had defined the Firebird's most iconic cultural period decades earlier. Of 540 total Firehawks built that model year, only 139 carried the 10th anniversary designation. Genuinely rare in its own right, and widely considered one of the most visually striking Firehawk variants SLP ever produced. It's a car that connects directly back to Ed Hamburger's original mission, a full decade after he started. Keep building genuinely quick, genuinely distinctive Pontiacs, even as GM's own corporate interest in performance kept wavering year to year. That consistency, a small aftermarket company outlasting the swings in Detroit's own institutional commitment to performance, is really the through line of SLP's entire story with the Firebird. When Pontiac's own factory ambitions cooled, SLP kept building. When they heated back up, SLP built something even more extreme to stay ahead of the curve. And that persistence is exactly why, decades later, collectors are still arguing about which specific SLP Firebird deserves the crown as the true rarest. A debate that gets even more interesting once you put the LT4 Firehawk next to Pontiac's own factory-built performance flagship from the same general era. The factory rival that comes close but doesn't quite match it. A common question among serious Firebird collectors and enthusiasts is whether they should be chasing a Firehawk or a WS6 Trans Am. The two cars are genuinely comparable in spirit. Both represent the most performance-focused versions of the fourth-generation Firebird available during this era. But they're not built the same way, and the answer really depends on what a specific buyer is actually looking for. The WS6 was a factory-available package straight from Pontiac itself, offering handling upgrades and a functional ram air hood without requiring any outside conversion work. Because it came directly from the factory, WS6 cars are considerably easier to find today, considerably easier to get serviced, and generally more practical for someone who wants to actually drive their classic Pontiac regularly, rather than store it as a collector piece. The Firehawk's advantage comes from exactly what made it special in the first place. SLP had access to aftermarket upgrades and, in the case of the 1997 cars specifically, an engine that Pontiac's own factory simply couldn't offer through official channels. That gives the Firehawk, and especially the LT4 version, a genuine performance edge over even the well-regarded WS6. You couldn't walk into a Pontiac dealership in 1997 and order a factory WS6 with an LT4 under the hood. That specific combination only ever existed because of what SLP built. For a buyer chasing collector value and genuine rarity, the LT4 Firehawk wins clearly. For a buyer who wants a great driving classic Pontiac, they can actually enjoy on weekends without worrying about a car this scarce. The WS6 remains an excellent, more accessible choice. Both, in their own way, represent the same underlying idea, that the muscle car spirit never actually died in the 90s. It just went looking for people determined enough to keep building it. Which brings us to the part of this story that genuinely surprises people who assume anything from the 90s is still cheap, because these cars have quietly become some of the most sought-after classic Pontiacs currently on the market. What 30 years of waiting has done to the price. Hagerty's own data confirms what serious collectors already suspected. Despite the Firebird nameplate continuing all the way through 2002, it's specifically the 1997 Firehawk that remains the most desirable and valuable across the entire era. Driven almost entirely by that exotic, one-year-only LT4 engine designation, these cars very rarely come up for sale, and when they do, they generate real, immediate interest. Standard, less modified early fourth-generation Firehawks remain fairly affordable. A 1994 model averages around $22,575, according to Classic.com, with 1996 examples sometimes trading for as little as $12,500. But standard 1997 Firehawks stay in roughly that same affordable range, while the genuine LT4 versions sell for close to double. One documented LT4 Firehawk reached $43,900 in 2024. Hagerty puts good condition examples at around $42,700, with excellent condition cars averaging closer to $59,600. Compare that directly to a desirable 2001 Pontiac Trans Am WS6 with 325 horsepower. Good condition value, around $28,500, with a 2002 coupe going for as little as $19,000. The LT4 Firehawk, despite being genuinely comparable in raw performance terms, commands roughly double what its closest factory-built rival brings. For a car this rare, 29 units, one single model year, an engine combination that officially never existed anywhere else in the Firebird's entire production history, a price point around $40,000 looks, by any reasonable measure, like it's still leaving real room to grow. Whether this becomes a genuinely significant classic Pontiac investment over the coming decade is impossible to say with certainty. But the fundamentals are there. Extreme scarcity, genuine performance credentials, and a story most people have simply never heard. That's exactly the combination that tends to move markets once enough collectors finally catch on. Which brings this whole story back to where it started: a small aftermarket shop, a determined founder, and 29 cars that prove the muscle car spirit never actually needed Detroit's permission to survive. 29 cars. One single model year. An engine that officially wasn't supposed to leave the Corvette program at all, quietly rerouted into a struggling Pontiac nameplate by a small aftermarket company that refused to accept that the muscle car idea was finished. The 1997 Pontiac Firebird Firehawk LT4 isn't famous the way the Golden Age GTOs and Hemi Cudas are famous. Most people who love classic muscle cars have simply never heard of it. But it represents something genuinely important. Proof that even when Detroit's own factories lost their nerve, there were still people determined enough to keep building the real thing, one small batch at a time. Now, I want to hear from you. Did you know this car existed before today? And which other overlooked 80s or 90s performance car do you think deserves its own deep dive on this channel? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one. If this brought back a memory, or if it's the first time you're hearing about it, hit like. And don't forget to subscribe and follow me for American automotive history most channels never bother to tell. See you next time.